What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the TEPS podcast, or the Everything Paranormal Show, as you guys remember it. And joining me is an old friend and a good friend, Stacy Tallitsch. Stacy, welcome back to the show. You co-hosted with me for quite a bit as well, so it's good to have you back next to me.
Yeah, this is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, now, guys, for those of you that don't know, I'm going to give Stacy a chance to tell everybody about himself. But Stacy's very, very knowledgeable, and you can catch him on many other things. And I'm going to make sure that you guys know where to find him too. So if you like everything you see, you want more Stacy, you want more of the show, like, subscribe, go check out his social media. But guys, we've got some really cool stuff to discuss tonight. We're going to get into a little bit of the Conjuring drama that's been going on. We're just going to touch on that a little bit, and maybe just drama in general on the paranormal community. We're also going to get into talking about some remote viewing. Stacy is one of our experts when it comes to remote viewing, among many other things. And we're also going to get into a little bit of some origins of ghost hunting. I brought my book. And so I'm going to discuss a little bit of one of the first books to inspire me, and one that I think is a must read for people. And I'm going to explain why. Okay. All right. So with all that said, Stacy, why don't you tell the folks out there that don't know much about you, that may be watching this for the first time, tell them a little bit about yourself. Like, what all do you do with the paranormal, and like, what are some of your specialties, all that good stuff. Kat, and by the way, Kat is one of our good folks that's watching. She is amazing, and I think she even ordered a t-shirt, a TEPS Investigate t-shirt recently. So I hope you like it, Kat. You'll have to send me a picture. Anyway, Stacy, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm professional remote viewer. For those of you who don't know what that is, remote viewing has been used as synonymous with just being psychic or clairvoyant, or all these various different things. Remote viewing is a very specific technique that was developed by the United States military through a program they called Project Stargate. It was a black project that was hidden for 10, 15 years. No one knew about it. The name of the program, Project Stargate, was leaked in, the media and in Hollywood, and it was the inspiration for the movie and various TV shows thereafter. Obviously, it has nothing to do with aliens or actually walking through a wormhole. It is a psychic spy program that the military figured out by studying psychics, and they spent millions of dollars to do this, by the way. What makes psychics tick and how they get the information that they get. And they figured out that you could actually train people how to pay attention to those triggers in a protocol that the military is very familiar with, that allows you to gather information from the subconscious mind, from the universe, through blind targeting, and get actionable intelligence through psychics. And it was a program that went all the way up into the early 90s. The Clinton administration basically put a kibosh on it. It was really popular in the military.
Damn those Clintons. They're always killing stuff.
Well, the military really didn't, the upper brass didn't like it so much, because they believed, a lot of the generals and the people inside the Pentagon believed that it was a security breach, that if you just have regular grunt soldiers pulling down actionable intelligence that is considered to be top secret, you're in violation of your security protocols. It wasn't that way, but there was a lot of paranoia going around, because it was still the Cold War, that the Russians were doing it and the Chinese were doing it, which was true, but the Russians sucked at it. They didn't have anything. The Chinese, on the other hand, had a really good program, and they're still running it today.
Really?
But the military put a kibosh on it.
So you're saying like there's Chinese people out there remote viewing right now, like a government
Oh, yeah.
remote viewing program?
Yeah, there's actually a book called China's Super Psychics that show that the Chinese government figured out that if you start them off really, really young, like grade school level children, they would become incredibly psychic in that environment, and they just uh, scary stuff.
Wow.
They had all of these abilities that in the book they had a journalist, a Western journalist, part of a demonstration where they had a 9-year-old girl was given a seed like from a plant,
Right.
and she held it in the palm of her hand, and through sheer will she got the seed to not only sprout but to blossom.
Isn't that like, didn't she do that within like 20 minutes or something?
Yeah, in a very short period of time, and everybody in the room thought it was some kind of trick, but she didn't move. She stood there the whole time holding on to the seed, just concentrating, and it just grew in her hand. That kind of psychic ability is just what they were allowed to see as far as like Western journalists were concerned. But the same journalist wrote that book, and it's kind of a thick book called China's Super Psychics.
Right.
Uh, details the way that they went about their program, which was really well funded and far and above what we did here in the United States.
Now that's really cool. I remember hearing about growing the seed in the hand because I was doing I did an experiment. I never did publish the results, but I was trying to recreate that experiment with the psychic where you do the 3 things of rice,
Mm-hmm.
and you have a test rice, you have a good rice, and you have an evil rice.
Uh-huh.
And you put them all in the same, water, little mason jars. And for the control one, I just put it like in the furnace room, where they're like the storage room, no light, just nothing, no interaction with anybody. And then for the good, I put it in the laundry room, and every time I would go in the laundry room, bathroom, I would say nice things to it. I'd be like, "Hey, Rice, how you doing, Rice?" And then in the other Rice, in the other room, I'd go in there and I'd just be like, "You Rice, man, you piece of, you're garbage, blah blah blah." Holy crap! ICU popped in here. Oh my God, ICU! It's so good to see you stuffing things as well. You popped in there first, and sorry to acknowledge you yet. Good to see you guys. Seriously, ICU, good to see you guys. ICU was one of the original OGs, man. She back in the back. She's been there from the beginning. So good to see you pop in. I'm so glad to see you. Especially with Stacy coming back after. I mean, we haven't really been doing nothing over the last year. I mean, it's crazy to think when we were doing this like every Thursday. But we're back. At least I'm back. Stacy will be joining us every once in a while. So he's got another thing going on as well, which you guys will definitely want to tune into. He's got a Q&A type form. I'll let him describe it to you later on. So all right, so back to the remote viewing and the China program that really intrigues me. Oh, but I was saying that the experiment, I was, I can't remember the guy's name, and he did the experiment, and he was showing that like if you use negative emotions, like you can project these negative waves and cause a difference in the good rice, control rice, and all that. Mm-hmm. I kept doing it. I did it for longer than 30 days, and I couldn't quite get a big difference between the evil rice and good rice. I don't know if I did it right. Maybe I had it sealed up,
well,
and I don't know.
The military started, they had remote viewing. They wanted to see whether they could affect other things, not just get information. And they called that remote influencing instead of remote viewing. And they found out that you could, in fact, affect things over a period of time. The minimum period of time you had to do things on a regular time scale was 9 days. Sometimes it took a little bit longer, but a minimum of 9 days was required to do any of those experiments. Then they had controlled plants. They had the water, the frozen water, which some people,
Right.
refer to, because that's relatively easy to do. You have just saline water in 3 jars, like what you're talking about, and you have one that's love, one that's hate, and one that's neutral, and
Right.
you throw the love and the hate at these different things at regular intervals, and then you freeze it, you flash freeze it, and you can see the crystallization in the water is vastly different from one to the other.
Right.
Like, you get really beautiful crystallizations like snowflakes in the love, and in the hate you actually get almost jagged, dirty looking water that looks like someone basically shit in it, because it
Right.
just gets nasty as in it, but it's the same stuff. You don't put anything in it, anything
Right.
like that. It's just
Right.
3 exactly the same,
And
but
that's
they
what I
don't.
did with the rice, but I think I don't know if I just maybe I sealed maybe I had the lids on a little too tight or something. They were kind of sealed. Maybe I needed to let the air in. Maybe it kind of formed a little bit of a block by
Mhm.
having it sealed more. But there wasn't really specific instructions on how to do it. I was just going from his experiment and what I could research about it. And then of course I do remember there was the frozen water experiment, the seeds in the hand. There was all kind of a variety of experiments of different people and that style of stuff. So I remember that for sure. And but I think that's cool. I may even have to retry it again just for the
Mhm.
hell of it, because it was pretty fun to just talk shit to Rice, you know. And at the time when I was living with Terry Lynn, it was like she would just make fun of me. Like she'd be like, because she'd laugh her ass off when I'd be down there, like, "You Rice, you piece of," I'd just be like going off. Um,
Well, they've come a long way with a lot of those experiments. There's actually a whole new level, or a whole new field of science they're calling information theory or
right,
information science, where everything, and it goes along with the whole idea of the holographic theory of the universe, that we don't actually live in a physical world. We live in a holographic uh, plane,
right,
and all of everything around us is actually just circling a giant black hole, smeared across an informational matrix. That's part of what it is, but they don't really know. The theoretical physics around it, though, is getting interesting, because they've discovered that matter will manifest out of nothing, which blows Einstein's E equals MC square stuff right out of the water, where it's energy is not created or destroyed, only transferred. Information, though, added to the matrix, added to the idea. If you have what they've tried to create is a perfect vacuum, and they can't do it,
right,
because if you have any kind of energy inside the vacuum whatsoever, matter will just suddenly manifest out of nothing. And the theory is there is an information stream that permeates the whole universe, a quantum field or quantum stream, that as soon as any kind of energy touches that quantum stream, that informational matrix, it will create matter out of nothing. And it blows a lot of the stuff out of the water with the Big Bang Theory, meaning that the universe isn't really expanding. It's just adding more stuff all the time. And
right.
as it adds more stuff, it looks like the universe is expanding when it's not. It's just adding more stuff.
So
And
well, go ahead. Go ahead.
it,
Finish your
it,
thought.
it's an optical illusion based off of how we do our readings and our telescopes and all of that. That as more stuff just suddenly appears, it looks like things are moving away from each other when they're not. And it's crazy, but this whole new information theory is based off of what remote viewers have been saying for decades now. You know,
What's the best way to define to an average person about remote viewing and how it works?
it's like a streaming service. Your unconscious mind is permanently connected to the universe or that information stream. And you can, with a simple query, find out anything that exists in a person, place, thing, or event anywhere in space-time, meaning that there is no time. It all is happening all at once right now. You can pull information out of the future, pull information out of the past, or the current timeline or current moment. The problem is when you're in the remote viewing session, you can't tell which one is which because you're totally blind. Everything feels the same based off of your experience in this moment.
Right.
I don't know what it's like to live in the 1860s. I don't. Was not born then. I was not alive then. So my physical experience, which is what your mind goes from, is what you've lived in this life, has no relation to what it's like back then. Only the commonalities, like what I've experienced now to what they experienced back then. Those are the things that I can relate to. It's a database of experience, but that can be communicated in a remote viewing session from the universe itself. So you have something that you can go off of to answer a particular question. Like, what did it smell like at Gettysburg? Right afterwards, because it's going to be a unique smell that only
death.
yeah,
blood,
a lot of
death, yeah,
rotting smell. Well, they didn't even have deodorant back then either. So people who were alive were pretty rank all by themselves, and then you have rotting limbs or, all kinds of things that we can't even really comprehend, but the information still exists.
right.
So, you would be smelling, it smells like rotten meat. It smells like, all this different stuff. And only until you've completed the session do you actually realize that, oh yeah, I was remote viewing 1865 or 1864 at Gettysburg.
Now, can remote viewing happen to people that aren't really trained in it per se? Like can it happen during dreams? Like, can someone be dreaming and start to get into like a remote viewing session?
Yeah, well, kind of, yes. Again, remote viewing is a particular technique developed by the military. But the psychic information or the data stream, that's all you have that all the time anyway.
Right.
It's being able to interpret the information in a format that can be not only understood by you, but could be understood by a third person. You write the information down and that third person goes, oh yeah, that's what that is. Because a lot of psychics don't have that. They are both the receiver of the information and the interpreter of the information. And if an outside person was to check their work, they'd be like, what is that? Doesn't make any sense whatsoever, because psychics have their own technique that only they understand and
Right.
outside people don't. Remote viewing standardizes that. So more than one person can look at the work and say, okay, I see what that is. You're correct on this. You're 80% here. You're, 100% here. All of this grading, essentially grading their work to determine whether or not what they're doing is accurate or not. You can't do that with a regular psychic because they all have their own special technique that only they understand.
I would say there was twice that I know of, and I know it's not necessarily would probably be referred to as remote viewing. There's another term for it, and and you may even know the term. But basically, I had two extreme, like what I don't think they were dreams per se, because they're not unlike any other dreams I've ever had. These two stood out, and they're the kind that you don't forget, and they were like so vivid they were real.
That's lucid dreaming. That's
not
technique.
even like I've had many other dreams where they seem real and all that stuff, but these two were different, and I think it was a glimpse into some past life. I had one where I was literally in the pioneer days.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly where, but I want to say it was near the Rockies because the mountains looked more like Rockies. I live in the Appalachians,
Mm-hmm.
but these looked more like some rocky mountains in the distance.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at like a little homestead, like a brand new looking homestead cabin, like a shitty looking cabin, but like brand new, and like a pioneer days. And I was chopping wood. It was such a boring fucking memory, but it was real. Like it was like absolutely real. Like I was living there. I had that one, and then the one that I talked about before in on streams too, where I was driving in a car right near a lake, and I was being a dumbass, and I tried to do a donut into the sandy part at there's a turnaround right where there's like a beach. There's like this road that goes right. I mean, it's like right along the bank of this lake, and there was like a beach turnaround. You know, you could probably launch a boat from there, and there was a hill. I know a hill. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of mountains in the background from what I remember, but there was a hill. But there was like this turnaround, and I tried to do a fucking donut, and I stepped on the gas, and it didn't quite catch, and I went straight into the fucking water, and the car was drifting out a little bit and sinking, and it was filling up with water, and I was trying to get out, but it was filling up with water very fast, and I ended up drowning, and like dry I died in the sleep. I died. Like I literally woke up gasping for air. But like that memory was so different than any other dream, anything else. I truly believe that that may have been the last life before this one, because there was a car, and it didn't seem like an old car.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say it could have been the last life before this one. And so anyways, I do believe in those. I do believe that happened. Like to me, compared to any other realistic type of dream that I've had, any of that stuff, none compared to those two dreams that were just, it was different. And you can't explain it to somebody unless they experienced it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, saying it's a past life, I would totally believe that. Uh, However, you have this thing with the paranormal. You deal with spirits a lot. And sometimes spirits will give you their last memory as a explanation of what's going on.
Sure.
And
I can buy that.
giving
Dude.
you that memory,
Oh my
that
God.
make you feel like it was you, but it wasn't you. It was them in that moment.
I wish I would have recorded this, man. Stacy, I did a dowsing rod session for a private group of people, right? I had some friends that I've been doing like this Civil War. I'm part of this league, and we do these Civil War matches 3 times a week. One of them's drill. I'm now a corporal. Anyways, but anyways, we had after one night they were, because they love talk, like when I talk about paranormal shit, whatever. So we met in Discord, and I did a session. I turned on the video camera, and they all watched me, and I did the thing, and the session went pretty well. We ended up like one of the guys. Oh man, one of the guys, he had lost his wife, and we tried to get her. Like I tried to get her. And I even tried to get Sean to get her, my spirit guide.
Right.
And Sean, she just wasn't available, Well, then later on, we came back to him, and he wanted me to find a friend. So we found a friend named Bill and talked to him. And he didn't really have much he wanted to tell Bill. And Bill, there was a brief exchange. Went pretty cool. But then I had this hunch, and I was like, Bill, I was like, do you know his wife? Because his wife, they knew each other too,
Mm-hmm.
And so I had his friend was able to get his wife to the dowsing rods. And I'm going to tell you, man, that it got real heavy, because she got on the rods, I literally was starting to cry. Like I was like tears. I'm like, I could barely talk. There was so much, like, people don't understand unless you are going through it. Like for me, I just, was trying to use the rods as yes and no. And I even told everybody, I said, look, take it with a grain of salt. I'm just, whatever the rod says, what they say. If you ask a question and like, was your favorite color blue? And then they say yes, and they said no, it was green. I mean, again, it's the rods. They're going to say what they're going to say. But the session was so heavy, and like I could feel the emotion from her. I just felt everything. It was so crazy. Oh my God. I didn't record it. It was just a private session. Just they wanted to see, what it was. And they were just curious. So we were just doing, of course, we had gotten some other spirits, but man, it was a good session. Holy crap. It was a good session. But with that said, let's move on. I want to do some segments here in our show now, so we don't ramble too much. We've been talking about remote viewing and the psychic world and all that stuff. So I do want to get into a little bit of the beginnings of some of the things that you and me, what inspired some things that kind of kicked us off into the paranormal world. I think that'd be pretty fun. And tonight, one thing I'm gonna open it up. And Nicole Gaspard, hey, you love to remote view. That's awesome. That's awesome. You're gonna want to check out Stacy, and he's got a show he does with Q&A every other week. He'll talk about it more, like don't go anywhere. And but anyways, guys, all right, so this book right here, this is called Into the Unknown, and it's even from Reader's Digest, man. This thing's like an encyclopedia. This thing is so badass. Like, this is a must read, and I'm gonna tell you why. Now, this thing, all right, we're talking. I gotta have it. I had it upside down, but this thing is so badass. I mean, it's illustrated. It's got words. For those that like words, but it's got pictures. So if you like pictures, it's a phenomenal book, and I'm gonna tell you why. But let me just tell you some of the contents. We're talking ancient unknowns, earth shrines, Atlantis, art of magic, witchcraft, monsters, divination, astrology, reincarnation, ghosts and spirits, spiritualism, PSI and science, power of dreams, animal PSI, mind over matter, leaving the body, astral projection, right?
Yeah.
Healing, enigma of UFOs, PSI in the brain. I mean, guys, this book, and let me tell you why these books matter. This book came out in 82, I want to say. Let me look at the fucking thing here. Anyways, I want to say it came out in like 82. Anyways, let's just say early 80s. Guys, there's not been a lot of really good studies since the 80s. Stacy's kind of agreeing with me.
Yeah.
It's just like there was a lot of hardcore studies back in the day. We could get away with some studies, and they funded some studies, 60s, 70s, 80s. But then, like, we're talking like scientific shit as much as they could, right?
Right.
Now, in these last like 30 years, I've asked a ton of paranormal investigators. I'm like, have we progressed at all? Have we done anything? And then most everybody's like, no, if anything, we've regressed on paranormal. So when you can get your hands on literature like this, read it, because this is like right off the tip. This is also before, like, nobody edited this book. Nobody can go back. None of these modern scientists that want to go back and try to change history and try to reword shit and be like, no, blah, blah, blah. No, this is going to tell you how it was. It's going to tell you right after a lot of these experiments and all that stuff. So yeah, you want to talk about some good read, folks, get you into that book. I don't care if you got to try to find an old copy somewhere. I'm lucky to still have this, but this was one of the books when I was a kid. All right, I grew up in the 70s and the 80s. And so when I was younger and this book came out, and somehow I had it, I think because my grandma had a bunch of Reader's Digest stuff and my grandparents raised me. So this was one of the books that probably came with her stuff. And I ended up with it because as soon as I opened it up as a kid and I was like into the unknown, and look, when you open it up in this first like beginning, look at these cool, it's like a crystal skull, some kind of monster looking thing, like a dude with dowsing, or oh, that's a chick, sorry, a girl with dowsing rods. Like, I mean, they're stick dowsing rods, but still, like that's old school, right? I mean, there was just like cool images, and I'm like flipping through here, and there was just like cool stuff, man. Tarot, look at this. They're talking about the art of tarot and stuff. Like you just don't, you didn't see that kind of stuff. You don't really see that stuff now much. You know, nobody wants to, and this is such a good collection, and it inspired me to where I am today with paranormal.
Yeah,
So,
Nicole, I still remember a lot of the Fate magazines back in the 80s. That was your go-to when you wanted to be as up to date on whatever was coming down the pike. Books take years to get to print. Fate magazine was pumping them out, every month, and then they like went quarterly, and then they just kind of like disappeared.
yeah. And because Nicole was talking about that. And I also wrote a book about my mini UFO sightings and encounters. Nice. Can you get this book on Amazon? Where can you get it? I mean, definitely let us know where you can get your book, Nicole. That's so cool. I have a book. And I normally have it on me, but I don't have it near me. Sorry, guys. I don't have my book, but you can get it on Amazon. Yeah, I think you can share the link. Try it. I don't care. I'm good. But yeah. Um, yeah, I don't have my book on me because I did it for I went and moved it somewhere, and anyways, but yeah, that's awesome. And UFOs are a great subject as well. Um, but anyways, this was one of the books, and then of course when I wrote my book, since you brought up that you wrote a book, when I wrote my book, I also talk about other things that kind of some ghost stories from my childhood and stuff that inspired me. Um, but I just thought when I was talking to Stacy on the phone before we did the show, I was talking about this book, and I plan on reading it nose to tail, because there's so much information in there, and I used to just glean through it a lot. Now I really want to go back and actually read it nose to tail and just really get in there. I can't wait. Um,
Yeah, she's on Amazon. Nicole's on Amazon.
nice.
Number 19 is coming out. Is that going straight to ebook, or are you getting it published, Nicole?
Yeah. And also you need to do audio versions. I can't tell you how many people are lazy and don't want to read today, and they just want audio versions. Like, I can't tell you how many people ask me about my book. They're like, do you have the audio version? I'm like, no. They're like, that's like shit. I mean, so I'm going to have to break down one time and start narrating my own book and do an audio version.
Well, what's cool is you can clone your voice in
Right?
AI.
I don't sound like an idiot.
Yeah, you can clone your voice in AI, and then
I'm just going to do Morgan Freeman. I'm not going to lie. I'm just going to do fucking Morgan Freeman. I'd rather just do Morgan Freeman.
Well, you can get Morgan Freeman if you want. Just record the whole thing in AI.
Dude, he's got the best. He's got the best voice, I think. I mean, there's good voices out there, but for me, I think my favorite's got to be if Morgan Freeman's talking, I'm listening. I'm listening. But yeah,
him and Darth Vader.
Oh yeah. James Earl Jones, man, he's the man. He's the man. Like a Mufasa, any Mufasa lines, man. Right? You'd love to hire more. I know, but see, now we just do AI. We don't have to hire Morgan Freeman. We just do. Although I tried a test run of I actually did this because when Stacy was getting me into AI, I did a test run of me sounding like Morgan Freeman, and it sounded weird. So I don't know if it would translate it, but that was, they probably do better now. It's probably been a year. So I see you. How's Terry Lynn doing? She's doing okay. We're not together anymore. But we're still good friends. So, but she's living in the neighboring city, and she's doing all right. She's hanging in there. I'm surprised she hasn't popped in today, to be honest with you, into the chat. Nicole, I tried to share the link. Oh, it won't share. Okay. Well, type in the name of the book. Type the name of the book in so people know to at least where they can go to Amazon and type that name of the book. Oh, it's okay. I see you. Like I said, it's one of those things. So I but okay, so we talked about me. Stacy, what about you? What was some of the first things that really inspired you to get involved into the other side of life slash death?
Well, initially, I'm grew up in the '80s too. Uh, the bookstore that was in town uh, didn't have a whole lot as far as the paranormal was concerned. It was really limited to like one shelf, and the only books that they had on there were books on witchcraft or Satanism or whatever. And the first books that I picked up were, of course, dealing with that, as Buckland's Book of Witchcraft, the Satanic Bible, and then there was also a book called the Necronomicon, which, if you know anything about that book, it's really intriguing. They make it look like it's this hidden book that they discovered and they just got it interpreted, and anybody who's been around that book interpreting it or publishing it, they all die of mysterious ways, and it was all very like a cursed kind of information, which I thought was really cool. So of course I got really into that book, and it led me to uh, find some things that were talked about in the book that I didn't understand. So I went and sought counsel from people in Chicago about that information, and it actually led me to my first teacher into Santeria, and I studied under him for years and years.
But I mean, your first book was like the Necronomicon.
Yeah, that was the one that really got me. And the first thing that we discussed was the Necronomicon was full of shit. It was garbage as far as like real occult was concerned, because he knew the people who wrote it personally.
Was it this one? I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. He said the only thing in this book that has any truth to it whatsoever is the mythology, the story around Marduk and Tiamat. Everything else is bullshit. He was there in New York when this book was being written, and he knew these guys that were creating it. Basically, they saw a market from the Necronomicon from oh god, what is his name? 1800s author. He wrote not T.S. Eliot. He wrote The Time Machine. He wrote The Necronomicon. He wrote basically all these short stories. He's very famous. God, I can't remember. I'm blanking out on it right now. But science fiction author came up with this whole idea of the story that the Necronomicon was supposed to be, which was this hidden book that was discovered and interpreted, and everybody who gets involved with it dies. They even did the movie Evil Dead was based around this book, this story, because it was so intriguing. But these three guys wrote this book, and it sold like hotcakes. Didn't know that it was all horseshit at the time, because all the symbols, all of the rituals they created were basically pulled out of their ass. But the story of Tiamat and Marduk is an ancient Babylonian story that they lifted and put it in the book. It has a whole chapter. And it started the conversation going on what is real occult or real paranormal, because obviously I was really interested in, finding out how to work this thing. And it just led to a lifetime of the Afrocentric religions, and learning that there is that real stuff out there. It's just not out in the open. They don't publish it in books like
Right.
the Necronomicon.
And, and it does say even here, it says some have derided it as a clumsy hoax.
Yeah.
While others have praised it as a powerful spell book.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's a market that somebody created. It is a hoax, but it's one of those fun it's P.T. Barnum type hoax. It's not meant to create a religion like some. It's fiction that is portrayed. It's Blair Witch type fiction.
Right.
It's presented as being real, but it's not.
Now, Nicole, I tried looking up your book. I didn't find it. I typed in the exact title on Amazon. I'm really surprised I couldn't find it anywhere. At least I didn't keep scrolling. I went through a few different pages. It might be farther. So I was going to pull it up. Another book I wanted to show. This is another book from my childhood. I also had around, and that was Red Skelton, Favorite Ghost Stories. Dude, this fucking book, man, was badass. Like this book here, I almost really want to read it again. I really do. But I remember when I read it when I was young, it was great. It was like spooky shit. So I wonder how it really would be now, But anyways, this was another classic. And then there's my book. I had to bring my book up. That's the Kindle version right there. The paperback looks slightly different. It's got the half a face on it there. It's got my eye. But for some reason, when I did the Kindle version, it wanted like a different type of cover or something. I don't know. So I ended up like doing the full face on it. But it was different. But yeah, there's mine. I guess still got 5 stars. Yay. All right. Anyways. All right. So I just wanted to show all that. I figured we'd look at some books.
Yeah, in the process of doing this, I've come across a lot of stuff that, meeting Hans Holzer, one of the godfathers of actual paranormal investigation.
Right.
He's dead now, but
right.
He was one of the original in the 80s, pumping out a new book every year. He was actually goes all the way back to the early 70s.
Hey, that guy that was doing the Hosier Files, the Hosier Files show. I don't like to say the F word too much on my show, but the guy that was doing remember he was doing the show. And he was supposed to be out. He was going to come on the show like, I don't know. I finally got a hold of him. I got him to agree. He said something about in September, and then like when I tried to get, not this September, but like a while back, and then he flaked out on me. But anyways, just thought I'd throw that out there. So if you're watching there, Mr. Hosier Files guy, I can't remember your name.
Well, my godfather, my first teacher, was in several of his books. The New Pagans, Witches, even Ghosts. The title of those books, anyway, where he goes. Hans Holzer does these investigations and interviews people who are, involved in those types of things.
Right.
He's even got the Warrens in there somewhere. I forget which book he's got them in.
Right.
But the Holzer Files are essentially trying to follow in the footsteps of the Warrens, because they got the Warren Files, and all the movies that have come out with the Conjuring house and the Conjuring series, movies wise, which
we need to cover real quick because we're running out of time, and unfortunately we are going to have to wrap up just a little bit. But let's just touch a little bit about this Conjuring house drama. So for those of you that may be following some of the paranormal world, some of you might watch other shows and like investigations and things. There's been some drama going on with the current owner of the Conjuring house. Stacy brought this up to me. I had skirted a little bit of I had like basically stumbled across like a video from Jason from TEPS. Jason Hawes, and and I was like, what's Jason up to? And he was talking about a little bit, but he wasn't really getting too much of the drama, but he was just talking about the Conjuring house. But I could tell there was something going on. He was kind of alluding to some drama type stuff, and I'm like, what the hell? and I just never followed up with it. So, anyways, is there what else can you add on this?
Well, the new owner of the Conjure House, you can't even say new owner because she's been owner of the place for 2 or 3 years now. But she had quite a few people as employees running the property, giving tours and where events where people would come in groups and
Right.
actually you know do their own investigations or their experiences.
Wasn't there like John Huntington or something like that? I think he was a major. Like I kept seeing, he was always doing lives there. Not that
Yeah,
long. Like he was
you
a
had to.
major. He was one of the major ones that was always doing like lives or all the time. Like everything I saw was like Conjuring House and things like that. And
Right. Well, there's a couple. I forget what their names are now. A couple of young kids. They have a team. They're like maybe 21, but they do their editing in a very Gen Z kind of way, and so they literally have millions of followers, and they were doing um, video from there too, and it brought the Conjuring House to a level of attention that it just hasn't come back from, because it created skeptics all around the world about this whole thing and started creating a lot of drama around it online.
yeah,
The one of the Some of the employees that work there uh, are Cody and Satori. There's probably about a half dozen people that actually work there, but Cody and Satori were some of the main caretakers of the property, and Satori is actually Jason Hawes's daughter. And the situation with Cody and Satori is they revived a technique that hadn't been seen in over 100 years, which was they call it the knocking method, but it's the rapping method from I forget what the sisters were back in the day that did this, but basically one knock for yes and two knocks for no as they spell things out like a Ouija board. A, B, C, D, knock, and then they would go through the alphabet and spell out words. And it
right.
was this knocking method where they were able to, over a period of time, get some really good stuff, really good messages. And it created a whole new level of controversy, because then you had the skeptics who were telling you they're doing it this way, they're doing it that way, they're cheating, they're lying, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
Whatever.
that's hard to prove that, but you're always going to have the skeptics, anyways.
Yeah. Anyway, uh, it started a rabbit hole where the owner started to claim that she herself was a medium, and the spirits were telling her things that the people who worked for her were stealing from her and doing some really stupid stuff. And she started firing people, months after they hadn't received a paycheck. And they were like, well, we need to get paid for our time. And she's like, no, you were stealing, so I'm not going to pay you. And she kept doing this with one employee after another. And it's turned into a thing
Right.
where,
Just drama.
yeah, it's a lot of drama. And,
Well,
you know,
and I don't think we really need to get too deep into it too much. I just wanted to at least touch base on it. I said we were going to talk about it, but we are kind of short on time tonight, guys. I just want to give Stacy a chance to tell everybody what he's got going on, and also what we got going on for TEPS Investigates. Um, go ahead, Stacy. Let everybody know where can they find you. Like, where's the best places you can get you?
well, I have courses on remote viewing, hoodoo and conjure, prepping and cryptocurrency on udemy.com. You just type in udemy.com and spell out my name, and all my courses will come up. And you sign up for the courses, any one of them, and you'll start getting emails from me. Every other Thursday, I'm on another channel called the Get Haunted Network. That they are an event company that does these sorts of things. They did go to the Conjure House at certain points, but they have all of these other properties that they go to all over the Northeast that you can go to and experience the haunted location yourself. The Get Haunted Network, they have, my show is actually called Ask Stacy Stuff, or Ass. I'm the ass man. I wear a fedora most of the time, so the ass hat. Anyway,
Nice.
it's a Q&A where you can ask anything you want, and I pretty much tell you what I know. Now, if I don't know, I'll tell you that too.
Asti, and where can they find that? Is that on YouTube?
It's on YouTube on Get Haunted.
Okay. Get Haunted.
Yeah, it's Get Haunted has this whole network where they're going on and they're adding shows all of the time onto their network, and it's sort of everything from Bigfoot to UFOs to and it's sort of a focal thing,
Right.
I was going to talk to you about maybe doing that with them so you can actually network out this show.
I've thought about it in the past. It's like I knew about them back for a while back, when some of the other guys I think even SRS was doing a show with them, and like I don't know. I had thought about it at one point, but I don't know. Maybe we'll see. But awesome. Is there anything else you want to throw in there?
No, that's about it. I mean, I do the YouTube stuff just like this. It's just for fun.
Nice.
It's not like I'm promoting.
You can catch him here at the Everything Paranormal Show every once in a while. He's going to come back on. He may not always be regular, but he'll pop in here and we'll have some future discussions for sure. Guys, just to let you know what we got going on. First of all, I want to say thank you guys, Kat, ICU, Nicole, everybody that popped in. Guys, thank you all so much for participating in the show. Everybody else that watches this on replay, guys, thank you all so much. Eventually, I'm going to start upload them to. I'm going to get them back on Spotify. I was kind of taken back the other day when I pulled up Spotify and one of my episodes was recommended to me, and it was Bob. Oh man,
wow.
It was just like, Bob, are you talking to me? What's going on?
Yeah,
but our old friend Bob, man,
what are you doing? You're not doing your show anymore. I'm still watching. Still, there's
right.
There's
it was one of the catalysts, man. So it's like shit. But guys, again, and check out Nicole's books. And Nicole Gaspard, look her up on Amazon. She's got a bunch of books. I'm sure they're great. They're great books. Probably the greatest ever. Not better than mine though. Mine's the greatest.
I'm still upset at Bob for not telling me he was into racing. Doing race cars. We talked to him for years,
right?
And nothing, not a word.
Right. But anyways, as far as the future for TEPS, guys, so just to let you know, I'm going to be doing this podcast. We're going to do it again Thursdays every 9 p.m. I've got a guest next week. You guys are not going to want to miss. It's going to be Tammy. I don't want to mispronounce her last name right now because I'm going off the cuff right now. So she's got kind of one of those last names I could easily mess up. So I'm just going to say Tammy. You guys are going to want to see her next week and hear about
Terry Lynn.
And hear about her paranormal. Did Terry Lynn pop in at the end here?
Yeah.
Hey, Terry Lynn. So yeah, you're late. I'm ending. But guys, so we got the TEPS podcast. That's going to be again. We're going to be doing this every Thursday at 9 again. And also, again, we got Tammy coming on next week. We got other guests we're getting ready to line up. We have resumed filming for season 2 of TEPS Investigates, which you can catch on Paraflix. Guys, don't forget about our sponsor up here, Paranormal Underground Magazine. You can go get them. Guys, they're a fully illustrated magazine, Paranormal. We're going to start covering more articles and news stories from them. But guys, go get you a free year of Paranormal Underground Magazine. But we are going to be doing the filming coming up, and we got some future announcements that I don't want to get into just yet because we're going to be working out some details, but we've got some future things that's going to be really cool. The month of October, we're probably going to shift the show. We won't be able to do it on Thursdays in October, but we are going to look at just shifting maybe on the weekend for October. And then we'll be back. We'll be back and we'll do the Thursday night at 9 o'clock. Nicole, you said you want to be a guest on here. Well, hey, we might be able to work that out. There's right here on the ticker, everythingparanormalshow at gmail.com. Hit me up, Nicole. But yeah, hit me up. And like I said, if you want to be a guest on here, just go to that everythingparanormalshow at gmail.com and we can work out the details, I'm sure. So, but other than that, guys, I've got to run. Unfortunately, I do have to work another job tonight. I'm covering for somebody, so I can't go into overtime too much. So normally I like to go into overtime, but guys, you guys take it easy.
Terry, I didn't get a text. I didn't get anything from you.
Yeah.
I don't have anybody blocked. I don't know what's going on.
But yeah, other than that, sorry again, guys. I've got to run. But other than that, guys, thank you all so much for showing up.